Ladies and gentlemen,
my name is Dimitris Keridis. I'm a professor of politics, a member of parliament, and a scientific advisor to the Theophano Foundation. But tonight, I will be none of this. I will simply be your host and your guide, if I may, to what promises to be a very uplifting experience. Κύριε Πρωθυπουργέ,
κύριε Αντιπρόεδρε της Ευρωπαϊκής Επιτροπής, κύριε Επίτιμε Πρόεδρε,
κύριε Επίτιμε Πρόεδρε
του Ευρωπαϊκού Συμβουλίου,
President Emeritus of the European Council, dear head of the region, dear Mayor of Thessaloniki, dear members of the Advisory and the Governing Council of the Theophano Foundation, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, we would like to welcome you to the prize ceremony of the first award, Theophano Award, that is awarded this year to the ERASMUS program. Our event is under the auspices of Her Excellency, the President of the Hellenic Republic, Mrs. Katerina Sakelaropoulou. Today, we are celebrating Europe. We are celebrating the European idea, the idea that promotes the fact that what unites us is more than what divides us, and that united we are stronger. The European idea is the most important and the most promising development in the international relations over the last 70 years. It is the model for the interstate cooperation of peoples. It relies on our common cultural origins as well as the tragedy of the two world wars. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today thanks to the initiative of European leaders under the leadership of Herman Van Rompuy and Stavros Andreadis, who envisioned a prize that will link the West with the East and that will recognize the European identity at its whole. We have selected Thessaloniki as the crossroad of the Greek, Roman, and all the traditions that formed the modern Europe. And this landmark, Rotunda, with its long, brilliant history. The video that follows is dedicated to the history of Rotunda in Thessaloniki.
Thessaloniki's emblematic monument, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Built in the early 4th century BC, on the cusp of the Christian world taking over from idolatry. It is believed to have been founded either by Gaius Galerius Maximianus or Constantine the Great. Erected north of the Arch of Galerius, it links to it by a professional road adjoining the palace complex from the late Roman, early Byzantine area, which attests to the presence of emperors in the city. It served either as a temple to the protector gods of the Roman imperial tetrarchy or as a mausoleum, victory monument to commemorate the triumphant rise of Constantine the Great to sole emperor in 324. The circular domed structure stands tall at 29.8 meters and is 24.5 meters in diameter, with walls 6.3 meters thick. Initially, the interior comprised 8 rectangular niches, 8 large arched windows, and 8 lunettes. Owing to its architectural form, the rotunda has been likened to Rome's Pantheon, while there are clear similarities to Constantinian dynasty mausoleums in Rome, Constantinople, and St. Cells. They share several characteristics, including plentiful natural light distributed through multiple openings and elaborate decorations. Between the late 4th and early 6th century, the rotunda was converted into a Christian temple with the addition of a holy altar to the east, whose size inspires awe and exaltation. It was later converted into a mosque by the Ottoman conquerors, a use that continued until the city's liberation in 1912, when the monument returned to Christian worship. It has since been dedicated to St. George after the small neighboring church. Inside, the decoration was magnificent. Marble embellished the curved walls from the floor to the base of the dome, as well as the side walls of the large niches. Doubtlessly most impressive are the wall mosaics, prominent masterpieces of late antiquity, unique in conceptual design and unparalleled in artistic excellence, whose interpretation and dating continue to fascinate researchers. In terms of aesthetics and style, the rotunda mosaics are a continuation of the Greco-Roman artistic tradition of large Eastern Mediterranean urban centers. They are notable for their realistic facial features, their evocative color combinations, their precision design, and attention to detail. As for iconography, the mosaics are an expression of two worlds, the Roman and the Christian, coming together to give birth to the art of Byzantium. The monument itself reflects Thessaloniki's alternating historical and cultural periods and serves as a landmark irrevocably linked to the urban fabric and everyday life within it. Throughout the centuries, the rotunda remains a point of reference for the interaction between architectural mastery and exceptional Byzantine decoration, the religious and the secular, the East and the West, local community and global heritage. A monument of Thessaloniki, part of European history and culture.
Σε έναν κόσμο
που χαρακτηρίζεται
A world that is characterized by rapid changes in the powers and new threats like the pandemics that are added to the old ones, we, the peoples of Europe, have decided to unite our fates and to claim with a strong voice as a partnership of freedom, of peace and prosperity. In this event, we have the honor and the pleasure to have the Greek Prime Minister, Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis, with us. With Kyriakos Mitsotakis, we have the same age. During his whole political career, and especially now as the Prime Minister of Greece, he always expresses the wish of the desire of our generation for the equal participation of our country in a free and a peaceful Europe. And he has managed to do so in an excellent way. Now we give the floor to the Greek Prime Minister, Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis.
Σε ευχαριστώ.
Thank you very much, Dimitris, for your kind words. Dear President Emeritus, dear Vice President of the European Commission, ladies and gentlemen, dear Stavros, it is a great honor and pleasure to be the first speaker in this very special event. The conditions and the circumstances are not anticipated. We have to protect ourselves against COVID-19. but thanks to the technology, we can abolish distance and time limits. So let's travel in time. At the end of the 10th century, a Byzantine princess left Constantinople for Saxony. It was the niece of Emperor Ioannis Tsimiskis. Her name was Theophano, and she married Othon II to co-chair and to co-rule the throne of the Byzantine Empire. After his death, she became the empress. But he became the emperor of the Romans. So automatically, he also combined the West with the culture of the Byzantine, where we had the domination of the Greek element. So we could say that this was the early union of our continent. 1,000 years later, dear Stavros, Empress Theophano made the reverse trip as a symbol, a strong symbol, in a very strong and very powerful city of the empire. And she gives her name to a prize that is dedicated to the union of the European peoples and their common vision and their common future. The Theophano Prize was born in order to honor people, institutions, and organizations that promote the European idea. So those who participate in the consciousness of the European vision that lead to the same goal, as Dimitris said, to the equal union of its states. It is a prize, a European prize, indeed. The idea belongs to the former president of the European Council, and this idea was implemented by a group of people from northern Greece under the leadership of Mr. Andradis. It is a bridge that links Thessaloniki with Europe. For the nominations are given by the jury, and the governing council that is consisted of leaders in the community of northern Greece and the international committee. The international community makes the final choice. For many centuries, Thessaloniki was claimed by many conquerors. It was the crossroad of civilizations and a place and a host of different cultures and civilizations. As this place that hosts us today, Rotunda, it was built as a mausoleum, and then it turned into a Christian church. And today it is the landmark of a metropolis that is a Balkan and a European pole of attraction. Unfortunately, this is not the case with another landmark of the union between peoples and civilizations, Hagia Sophia Church. The Vice President of the USA yesterday, Joe Biden, united his voice with the international movement complaining against the turning of Hagia Sophia Church into a mosque. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, 10 centuries since this first trip of the Byzantine Empress, the approach of the European countries is not founded on the marriage of its monarchs. It is built and it is based on the interaction of its people, of its citizens. That is the essence of its democratic existence. The states are linked with each other, but they also evolve together. So this award must be given to an institution which for more than 3 decades now serves the osmosis and the mutual understanding of the European peoples. How? By shaping the young generations, by giving substance to the quality of the European citizen. Because with the ERASMUS program, we have the Erasmus program has been joined by millions of young Europeans who traveled and studied in tens of cities of the continent, gaining experiences in the amphitheaters of the universities before endowing the European Union with a dynamic air. Through their experience, the participants at the Erasmus program realized something very important, that the differences, the cultural and the national differences, are just traces and not gaps of an overall geographic and cultural unity. This is why many of them are now playing leading roles in the artistic, political and cultural life of their countries. My good friend, who is the Prime Minister of Luxembourg, always finds the opportunity to talk about his participation at the Erasmus program at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. And of course for the fun that he had while he stayed here at the capital of Northern Greece. So selecting the first of the prize, the Theophano Prize, the governing council is honoring the concept of union of citizens and the cooperation of states. But it also honors the ecumenical as well, the ecumenical brightness of Europe that is represented by Erasmus program. The young people joining the Erasmus program were the first ones that experienced a united and free Europe without conflicts, without national wars, without political debates and conflicts that tortured Europe all the previous centuries. But they were the first who saw not only the achievements, but also the lacks of the European venture, because along with the new friends that they made in the countries where they traveled, they also get acquainted with the problems, the existing problems. So along with the goods of the European Union, they realized the weaknesses of the European Union. So their opinion is very important, especially in our times that is troubled, where many of the certainties of the past are now challenged. Because in order to safeguard safety and financial security, we have new risks like sanitary threats and climate change, while the change in powers is challenging the prestige of Europe in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, all this creates internal conflicts as some hesitations also injure the European self-confidence, and some inertias are encouraging third parties who are acting in an arbitrary way in regions where we have strategic European interests. These are challenges that we have to deal with in an effective way, because the societies of our common land are concerned. Their cohesion is troubled, and their trust to the common vision is also challenged. And popularism, hatred also find the grounds to develop. With the COVID-19 pandemics and the financial crisis menacing wealth and employment, these difficulties become even more important. And so peoples are looking to their governments, the national governments, as well as the supra-governmental administration, the European one. And we have more responsibilities vis-à-vis these people, because Europe is moving forward when it is listening to the demands and the requests of their peoples, of its peoples. And they prosper when the European Union is supporting them. So we are here in order to say that we come from far and we go far forward. Recently, we have made a very important step towards something that used to be a taboo: the ability of the European Union to be funded and to fund as a supranational entity itself. A venture, an attempt that must be successful. It must be the starting point for a new course. But we also have a new challenge for the European idea, the borders of Europe, the outline not only of the European Union, but also of its prestige, something that is challenged when a third country like Turkey is trying to challenge the rights and to abuse the rights of two member states like Greece and Cyprus, threatening not only Europe but also the world's safety. The answer of the last European Council on this issue was clear. It was explicitly declared that the European Union is supporting Greece and Cyprus. It invited Turkey to stop its menaces and its threats. It notified that it is its own behavior that will judge the future of the Greek-Turkish relations, and it asked for the re-onset of the discussions for the Cypriot issue. So I would like to condemn the attitude of Turkey and the expansion at the Varussia coast, because it abolishes the rights of Europe and Greece and the European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, along with COVID-19 pandemics, the financial crisis, the risks for the international safety, there's another challenge for the European Union: the migration issue. Our land, Greece, is bearing the burden of the immigration issue. We trying to protect the borders of our national borders that are also the eastern borders of the European Union, saving thousands of lives in the Aegean Sea, hosting thousands of people in our institutions. But the refugees are too many to be hosted in Greece alone. Greece has proven up to now its ability and its ability to hold the problem, but it also showed its humanitarian attitude. The destruction of Moria certified the ability of the government to create a new structure, but it also showed the limits of the European immigration policy. The new pact of the European Union on asylum and immigration must be a very important starting point for the revision of the European policy in order for Europe to be able to effectively control its borders. Common and flexible rules of asylum and a just system for sharing the refugees. But that's enough with the challenges and the tasks that we have to do. As our dear Ursula said during the European Parliament, let's stop talking and let's start working in order to build the future that we all want. Today it is a celebration for Europe and its values, and it's a great pleasure for me that the President of the European Commission will receive the prize, the Theophano Prize, even through the internet. She is the most competent person to convey to the Brussels the idea that the message that we convey today. A prize that bears the name of a very important lady of the past. Thank you very much.
Ζούμε
We all live in the era of spraying, but I hope not of the sprayed ones. The measures that we're taking are very strict indeed. I don't think that there is any other landmark or monument in Greece that has been disinfected for 3 days in a row, just like this one. After having heard of what the Prime Minister said, I was thinking of my student years in the law school here in Thessaloniki, which is celebrating its 90th its 90th anniversary. And I'm saying that because we're having here with us the rector of the law school. And he is not only an excellent professor, but he is also president of the Court of the European Union, Mr. Skouris. Dear friends, we wouldn't be here with us here today if we didn't have the vision and the perseverance of an important group of entrepreneurs of northern Greece, and all the members of the governing committee, of the governing council. And I would like to name all of them: Nada Korac-Katabatse, Sonia Rickman, as well as Stefan Sifes, who played an important role, together with Evangelos Gerovasiliou, Konstantinos Pleoudis, Mr. Eftimiadis, Mr. Milonas, and Mr. Rikonomou. With Mr. Andriadis, we have been working for years now in a series of actions for the outward looking of Thessaloniki. He is dedicated to a common goal. His passion motivates everybody, and that is why the impossible becomes possible. The floor is given to the chairman of the Governing Council of Theophano Foundation, Mr. Stavros Andriadis. Please pray him.
Αξιότιμη κύριε Πρωθυπουργέ.
Distinguished Mr. Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, in my turn and on behalf of the Governing Council of Theophano Foundation, I would like to welcome you to our award ceremony this evening, and the first award being given in the framework of Theophano Foundation. We find ourselves today in this unique monument for a city that has a very long history, in order to underline through this prize the continuity and the interdependence of our common heritage that have shaped modern Europe. Our Thessaloniki is the city of Cassander, which carries the name of his wife, who was also Alexander the Great's sister, has been a great commercial and intellectual center for southeastern Europe for over 2,300 years. Our city stands out for its uninterrupted urban continuity from the Hellenistic period through to the contemporary era. Through the centuries, here lived and ruled every person who shaped the Europe of today. Mr. President, we feel genuine enthusiasm that we are all here today to celebrate Europe, not just as an idea and an ideal, but as a living reality. A united Europe, which is our common homeland. A Europe that, despite its flaws, has today ensured peace, prosperity, creation, and collaboration on our long-suffering continent. We certainly have much to celebrate and a lot to be proud of. The strong conviction that those things which unite us, as has been said by all previous speakers, are more numerous and more important than our individual differences. And this becomes even stronger today among young people. And this is indeed wonderful.
The Empress Theophano Prize aims at strengthening this same feeling. The idea came from leading European personalities who wanted to showcase the common historical and geographical roots of our large homeland and to promote the contemporary European identity, whilst focusing on the key contribution to the core of the peoples of this particular region. The choice of naming the award after Theophano, a Byzantine princess of the 10th century who went on to become Empress of the West Roman Empire, bridging bridges in culture and contact, as well as Thessaloniki, the principal Byzantine city, as the seat of the award, both certainly sent out a very strong message. We are truly elated. This city, our city, is so old, but at the same time so youthful, that today is rife with life. It has been through the centuries a meeting point for Christians, Muslims, and Jews. It has always been the junction between East and West, between the Balkans and the Central European hinterland with the Mediterranean. Our city experienced the tragedies of the 20th century profoundly and dramatically. It welcomed hundreds of thousands of refugees and saw its Jewish community perish in a cruel Holocaust. In the first few post-war decades, it found itself right next to the Iron Curtain, and then, after 1989, welcomed thousands of Greeks once again when the borders were open. The history of Thessaloniki is, we believe, the history of Europe, and the perseverance of Thessaloniki is the perseverance of Europe to overcome all of this for good, to never again allow such tragedies to happen, to move forward. So we are all here today in this imposing monument to award the new prize. Again, I'd like to repeat that we are enthusiastic. We are proud of our inaugural recipient. We're very sorry that the very last moment the pandemic problems have prevented the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, to attend this ceremony in order to receive this prize as she had planned and decided. The prize will be received by the Vice President of the European Commission, Margaritis Schinas. However, Ms. von der Leyen will soon be with us, and we will listen to her online speech. In conclusion, I would like to thank a leading European who is also a friend, Herman van Rompuy, who kick-started the idea for this award. Herman is a true European statesman in the tradition of the great political leaders who put in place the foundations for the Europe of today. Today's event wouldn't have been possible without him and his worthy associates. I would also like to thank in equal measure, on behalf of all of us, our Prime Minister, Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis, who stood with enthusiasm behind this initiative from the very start and strongly supported it throughout the stages. Dear friends, let us all wish that the Empress Theophano Prize has a fair wind in its sails. Thank you very much.
Ευχαριστούμε, Σταύρο. Ευχαριστούμε πραγματικά.
We really thank you and thank all of you who did so many. Ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker is well known to the whole of Europe. Apart from the Prime Minister of Belgium, he was the first President of the European Council. He was called to deal and to manage the crisis of the euro that endangered the cohesion of the European Union. With his hard work, with his moral, and with his responsibility, he managed to be successful in this very difficult task. but his main focus was always the idea of European unity. And this is how the Theophano Prize idea was born. Herman van Rompuy is the chairman of the Advisory Council, where we have very important personalities like Mary McAllister, who is the former President of Ireland, Mrs. Elisabeth Guigou, former Secretary of State of France, Agnieszka Holland, author and film director from Poland, Maria Luisa Poncela, former Secretary of State of Spain, Sir Ivan Rogers, former UK ambassador to the EU, Chiara Saraceno, honorary fellow at the University of Turin, Karl Prince zu Svanberg, former Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Czech Republic, Rita Sushmuth, former President of the German Parliament, Luc van Middelaar, professor at the University of Leiden, and from Greece, it will be easier to pronounce, Nikiforos Diamandouros, former European Ombudsman, Yorgos Prevelakis, Professor Emeritus at Sorbonne, Vasilis Kouris, former President of the European Court of Justice, and Panos Jonos, Professor Emeritus at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. Ladies and gentlemen, we give the floor to the President Emeritus of the European Council, Mr. Herman van Rompuy.
Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. President of the Theophano Foundation, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of the Advisory Council, and I can also say after those 2 years, dear friends. When I stand here, I think of Empress Theophano, who could never have imagined that people would commemorate her 1,000 years later. In politics today, people forget more quickly than 1,000 years. A Byzantine princess, later reigning empress of the Holy Roman Empire, symbolically returns to her native soil. We are also standing here in the Rotunda, which in our life of almost 2,000 years has known many masters. And today, it is the link between East and West, between countries, cultures, and religions. The Rotunda connects tonight and does not divide. But we are not standing by the old era. The Theophano Prize is awarded to the ERASMUS program, enjoyed by millions of young Europeans. They live in peace, and compared to many others in the world, they live in prosperity. These walls of history welcome those young people. Let me express it in my own way. Some of you know that I am a so-called haiku poet. So I made a poem on this event. You know, a haiku poem is only 17 syllables, so it's very short. You have to read it twice so that you can really get it. Young people sing the ode to joy. The Empress cheers. Young people sing the ode to joy. The Empress cheers. In front of you, ladies and gentlemen, stands a proud chairman of the Advisory Council of the Theophano Foundation. After a few hours, the members of the jury agreed on the first laureate. They have all assumed, members of the jury, high responsibility in the leadership of their country, in diplomacy, in culture, in civil service, in academia. The laureate is not an individual man or woman. It's about men and women who entered their Erasmus years as inhabitants of Europe and left as European citizens. Studying or teaching abroad is not a purely intellectual experience, but an existential one. It shapes someone, or rather, it transforms someone. It is perhaps the European Commission's most successful program. And that's why it is so important that the President of the Commission, Mrs. von der Leyen, is here with us today, albeit in a virtual way, but at the very moment that we are gathered here. In passing, I would add a bold comparison. Theophano is the first empress of what we can call today Germany. And Mrs. von der Leyen is the first female president of the European Commission. And the new European budget provides new resources to expand the Erasmus program. In times of fear, such as this annus horribilis, we need hope. We need hope. In times when some people want to entrench themselves in their tribe or behind their borders, we need to defend and promote openness. Only those who look to the horizon are inclined to think of the future and to do everything for it. It was this message of hope that the Foundation, under the inspiring leadership of Stavros Andreadis, wanted to convey. It enthusiastically confirmed the proposal of the international jury. The Foundation has spared no effort to give the necessary luster to this prize. It could also count on the personal support, the personal commitment of Prime Minister Mitsotakis. Where could we be better, Mr. Prime Minister, than in the region where Alexander the Great, his father, King Philip, and the greatest of all philosophers, Aristotle, lived? Where could we be better? And I take particular pleasure in mentioning this because I myself was brought up in the Greek-Latin culture for 6 years. I would like to say I'm a Greek, or in German, ich bin Grieche. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is sometimes said that we live in a time of mediocrity, of Eurosclerosis, of a lack of ideas and narratives. However, the European Union refutes these accusations. Where in the world are 27 countries working together almost every month to build their common future? Another example, there used to be a European country with 19 currencies. Today, 19 countries have a single currency, just the way around. On the 21st of July, the Union, under the impetus of the European Commission, proved that solidarity is the Union's way of life. Of course, the Union has its internal tensions, and for each challenge overcome, a different one awaits, as it is in life. But we settle our problems through dialogue. In other Western countries, there is hatred and deep bitterness. And in the case of other global players, we do not know what people there think because they are not allowed to express it. We live in the spirit of Pericles on our continent. And I'm quoting Thucydides, because influence on matters of state is not the privilege of the few, but the right of the many. End of this quotation. The old European empires fell apart and we feel no nostalgia. Others in the world, even in the neighborhood of this country, still dream of a world that is gone forever. 70 years ago, our continent was reinvented. From a battlefield, we became a great plain of peace, reconciliation, and prosperity. Yes, one can dream in the Union. And those millions of young people who enjoyed the Erasmus program, they know that. There must be more of them from all social and cultural backgrounds. I mean Erasmus students. Europe belongs to them. Europe belongs to us. The planned new conference on the future of Europe should not be about new institutions, although they can always be improved and refined, but about the content of the future policies. And a few words now about the issues that are at stake. How can we create a healthier environment for humanity to survive inside and outside our continent? How can we ensure that the planet, with the beauty of its fauna and flora, is preserved and restored? How can we better protect our external borders without locking ourselves in the fortress Europe? How do we ensure sufficient jobs in this digital revolution, which will also destroy many? How do we avoid new pandemics and better prepare ourselves in the event that it does occur? Do we realize that there is a direct link between climate change and pandemic? How do we make our Europe less dependent on other countries when it comes to the heart of the economy and to the heart of our society? I'm thinking of energy, defense, medicines, medical equipment, digital technology, agriculture, rare materials, and so on. We must regain control of our future, not as a separate country, but as a continent. Another issue to be discussed: how can we play a role in the world if we cannot stand on our own 2 feet? Geopolitics, ladies and gentlemen, starts at home. How can we show more humanity in the rough and raw world in which we live again? Humanism must be the uniqueness of our civilization. Young people, together with the great British poet John Donne, they know, when I'm quoting him, "No man is an island. Every man is a part of the main." All these themes that I've mentioned have to be addressed in that new conference about the future of Europe. Ordinary people must be heard, young and old, but there must also be leadership through new ideas. Thoughts will guide the world. Thoughts will guide Europe. The European caravan continues its journey with a new crew each time, but in the service of the same idea and the same conviction. It does not gallop because everyone has to be able to join in, but it has a destiny: more and more European cooperation and integration, simply because otherwise we will not be able to solve the great problems of our time. There is no turning back because it is the right way to go. Europe is the big answer to the great challenges of our time. But there is an even growing awareness that global problems require a global approach, and climate is the most obvious example. We should not be afraid to continue to opt for openness. The European Union is the only real defender of the international order. Others only pay lip service to it or are downright against it. Once again, I place a great deal of trust in the young people who look to the future without nostalgia. We must know the past, sometimes cherish it, but never, never be its slave. To conclude, we remember today this synthesis between old and new, and let us revive it in this magical place, in the presence of European and Greek leaders, young Erasmians, or potential Erasmus travelers. The Theophano Prize has a great future ahead of us. The Rotunda will have many memorable evenings ahead of it, but there can only be one celebration, the first, and that celebration is today. Thank you so much.
Γίνεται όλο ένα και πιο δύσκολο για τον παρουσιαστή.
It becomes harder and harder for the presenter since I don't have a podium. I hope this will be the only surprise of tonight's event. We are in Greece, we live in the Mediterranean. We are used to surprises, otherwise it's not fun. Now, I think it's the moment that we all were waiting for. We will have the ceremony, the prize award. I would like to invite President Rombai and Stavros Andreadis, as well as the Prime Minister, to come over here for the award. And I would like to invite the Vice President of the European Commission, Mr. Margaritis Chinas, to receive the Empress Theophano Prize for Europe to the Erasmus program on behalf of the President of the European Commission, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen.
Και τώρα ελπίζω μέσα σε αυτό.
And now I hope that within that modern technology will do its miracle within this ancient place, as the Prime Minister promised. Ursula von der Leyen has planned to be here tonight. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemics, she could not attend the event, but she will join us through a video call. Ursula von der Leyen has a long experience. She was the first Minister of Defense of Germany and the first President of the European Commission. The goals that she set for her presidency are very ambitious, ranging from green transition to strategical Europe. Already with the new fund, as the Prime Minister said, she has her first success. Ladies and gentlemen, we give the floor to the President of the European Commission, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister Mitsotakis, President Van Rompuy, President Andreadis, Vice President Skinas, and distinguished guests. As you just said, Herman, you composed Young People Sing the Ode to Joy, the Empress Cheers. It is an honor to receive this prize. As President of the European Commission, and for the 10 million Europeans who have taken part in the Erasmus program since its inception, it is a prize to the students, the teachers, the dreamers who have made this European miracle come true. It is a prize to the mother of Erasmus, Sofia Corradi, who first had the idea of a European student exchange back in the 1960s. It is a prize to the 39 young Greeks who took part in the first exchange 31 years ago. It is a prize to Maria, a 24-year-old from Belarus who went on Erasmus to Spain just a few years ago. And when Maria was asked what the Erasmus taught her, she answered, and I quote, "Being European is not about the country you live in. It's about the values. It's about your beliefs and your actions." End of quote. Tonight, we pay tribute to millions of young Europeans like Maria. The Empress Theophano Prize has the award tonight that is precisely about that. It is about the values that make us Europeans. It is about the beliefs and the actions that have brought our continent together after thousands of years of conflict. It is about a shared culture that does not stop at borders. The ceremony is taking place in Thessaloniki, a capital of this shared European culture, and in such a symbolic venue. And this rotunda, as we've just seen in the film, was built along the road leading from Byzantium to the Adriatic Sea and from there to Rome. And it was a link between the East and the West. The rotunda was then turned into one of the first Christian churches in the world. Thessaloniki itself is a summary of Europe's history and culture. A European capital, a gateway to Asia, a crossroad of civilizations. This city saw empires rise and fall. It was teared down and rebuilt. And each moment in this millennium, history has contributed to shaping who we are as Europeans. This is our history. This is our culture. For the founders' generation of our union, European integration was all about peace, peace in our continent after great world wars. For Greeks in the 1970s, as well as for the people of Spain and Portugal, European integration was about democracy. For the people of Eastern Europe, who tore down the Iron Curtain, European integration was about freedom. The two halves of our continent were finally free to come together. And we Europeans got used to a growing and ever closer union. The Erasmus program worked as a perfect bridge between the young generations all across Europe. Millions of youngsters discovered what they had in common with other nationalities and what made them unique. For the first time, they felt that they belonged to one big community that spread beyond their country's national borders. And today, the Erasmus generation is all around us. Indeed, Kyriakos, as you mentioned, our common friend Xavier Bettel, the Prime Minister of Luxembourg, will never forget his Erasmus in Thessaloniki. And my children studied, thanks to Erasmus, in Zurich, Paris, and Poznan. To the generation of my sons and daughters, Erasmus is as important as the single market, the single currency, and open borders. And after 30 years, we can proudly say that Erasmus is one of the greatest unifying achievements in the history of our union. So it is right that the European budget agreed by the European Council includes a 55% increase for Erasmus. This money is well spent. But it is equally important progress that we are also extending the scope of Erasmus. In the future, more pupils and young people in education should benefit from the program. Whether they go to school, whether they attend university, or take part in a vocational training. Erasmus should be a truly democratic institution for all young Europeans. Ladies and gentlemen, as we Europeans were enjoying the fruits of great achievements such as Erasmus, we started taking them for granted. But we must not. During the last decade, we've lived through crises that have shaken our European Union to the core. 10 years ago, during the financial and euro crisis, we saved the Union and the euro from breaking up. But we have to be honest with ourselves. It came at a cost. Our economies then developed in opposite directions. Young people had to leave their homelands in search of work and a future, and you can tell a story of that. Countries increasingly blamed each other. These rifts are still visible and tangible today. Some of the initial reactions to the corona crisis seemed to repeat patterns and to trigger bad memories. But then something remarkable happened. In the face of the deepest health crisis, Europeans rediscovered the value of what we hold in common. And as sad as the situation may be, it is also a new opportunity for Europe. We turned distrust and disunity between member states into trust and unity in our union. We showed what is possible when we have faith in each other and faith in our European institutions. This took time, but it was worth the effort. And now our European Union has the chance to bounce back from the crisis and to build a better future for generations to come. Distinguished guests, this is what our recovery plan for Europe, Next Generation EU, is all about. Just as Erasmus was then, Next Generation EU is now. It is a program of unprecedented scale and scope, and it can become the next great unifying project for our Union. Using our common strength, we are raising the necessary funds together, 750 billion euro, most of it as grants, are a magnificent signal of solidarity and willingness to reform and invest. But Next Generation EU means more than just money. In the past crisis, the member states bypassed the European institutions and didn't fully trust each other. This time is different because the virus hit all of us. Member states, small and large, healthy companies, industries, small and medium enterprises, startups, all paralyzed by the impact of the pandemic. And this time, we are in this all together. We are investing together, not only in a collective recovery, but also in our common future. For a good reason, we called our recovery and resilience program Next Generation EU. When we raise such large sums of money, then we have to invest this money in such a way that we can master the major challenges for the next generation. It is the future of Europe's next generation that we are shaping today. And this is in particular good news for the host country of this Theophano Prize. Greece is one of the largest beneficiaries of the recovery and resilience facilities. The grants of Next Generation EU correspond to 8.7% of Greece's gross domestic product. And on top will be the loans from Next Generation EU. Next Generation EU offers, as difficult as the situation right now is, enormous opportunities to Greece to help modernize its businesses and municipalities. The digital transition is particularly important for Greece. Think of interconnections with islands or of high-capacity networks. Think of digital public services or the development of digital skills. When I talk about digital opportunities for Greece, these are digital opportunities for Europe. If we build structures together now, we can benefit together in the future. The sharing and secure use of data is an excellent example. A real data economy could become a powerful engine for innovation and new jobs throughout our union. And therefore, we need to secure in particular our industrial data for Europe and make it widely accessible. Common data spaces, for example. In the energy or healthcare sectors, they will support university, companies, and researchers. We will build a European cloud based on Gaia X to ease access to data and collaboration. Another example is artificial intelligence. Whether it is precision farming and agriculture, more accurate medical diagnosis and faster, or safe autonomous driving, artificial intelligence can open up new worlds for European citizens and businesses. And all this can be powered through Next Generation EU. Distinguished guests, our globe will become more digital. But will it remain livable? We know that as the global recovery speeds up, global warming will not slow down. And just weeks ago, Greece was hit by a hurricane, the likes of which we do not see on the shores of the Mediterranean. You are facing more and more wildfires, and farmers are forced to adapt to rising temperatures. And this is just the beginning. We know that change is needed, and we know that it is possible. The European Green Deal is our guide to make that change happen. At the heart of it is our mission to become the first climate-neutral continent by 2050. But we will not get there by standing still. We need to move quicker and do things better. And Next Generation EU will invest in this change while creating new job opportunities across Europe. This will finance clean energy sources, such as hydrogen. And it could support the Greek government's plan to phase out lignite-fired power plants by 2023. The program will fund a renovation wave all across Europe so that old buildings can become more comfortable and less polluting. And here, first mover advantage counts double in this recovery, and focusing investment will be absolutely essential to make the most of that. The speed with which we need to invest in a cleaner, more modern, and more circular economy has only accelerated during this crisis. From clean energy to clean transport, from saved biodiversity to restoring our nature. And this is how Next Generation EU can change the game. It can reduce our dependencies and strengthens the resiliences of our societies. A world where we use digital technologies for a healthier, a greener society. A world that our children can be proud of and thrive in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a decisive moment for our union. And Herman, you, President Van Rompuy, you know how hard it can be to build unity when the interests of 27 countries and almost 500 million human beings are at stake. But in view of the pandemic, we have realized that we can only overcome the crisis if we stand together. Solidarity, trust, and unity have to be built and rebuilt time and again. And I do not know whether Next Generation EU can change Europe as profoundly as the Erasmus program did. But I know that once again, Europe has chosen to master and shape its future together. Long live Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. President, for this inspiring speech. One thing is certain, that our hopes for the transformative potential of the Next Generation EU to face the big challenges of the 21st centuries are very high. And we are optimistic that with your guidance and support, we can meet those challenges ahead in the next years. Thank you very much. We hope we can have you in Greece. We hope we can have you here in Thessaloniki at the earliest possible. Feel always free to be with us. You have a very open door here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Efaristo.
Well, this is fun. If I ever have no job, remember me in your hotels. I can hope I can become a presenter maybe next time. Right. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ την Πρόεδρο της Επιτροπής, λοιπόν.
We would like to thank the President of the European Commission, and now we move on to the last part of our agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, Rotunda is a very important monument of the European civilization. We started from civilization, and this is where we are going to end up. With great pleasure, I would like to present you the work, the music of Rotunda for vocals and stringed instruments, composed by Dimitris Maramis and directed by the composer himself. The work is especially adapted for the event of the Theophano Award ceremony. We have the participation of the string octet and quartet with musicians of the Thessaloniki State Orchestra. The concept and the form of the work is based on the particularity of the Rotunda dome and the echoing that is created and incorporated in the work of music itself. At the same time, the unique mosaics of Rotunda come closer, presented on the niches, the three niches, through projection mapping, narrating the story of nature, man, spirituality, from society, and the common grounds of civilization and values. Ladies and gentlemen, the orchestra and the choir under the direction of the composer, Mr. Dimitris Maramis.
I won't sing.
Νομίζω ότι δεν μπορούσαμε να έχουμε καλύτερο.
I think this was the best possible closing for our event. We have to congratulate our musicians, the composer, the singers, the designers of the video, of the projection, the so-called projection mapping. I think, dear Minister of Macedonian Praise, head of the region of Central Macedonia, Mayor of Thessaloniki can be proud not only of its history, but also for its very strong and creative present, with all these young people who work together for this impeccable result in terms of inspiration as well as in terms of performance that makes the city and makes all of us very, very proud. So we are close to the end, and we have to say goodbye. If the life of the Byzantine Empress, who was married to Othenos II and became the Empress of the Saint Byzantine Roman Empire, was an effort to bridge the East with the West thousands of years ago, the Erasmus program manages to bring the young Europeans together, broadening their horizons and shaping the common life of the European peoples. Tonight, we managed to unite the past with the present, aiming at a future of more Europe.
Because we say no to intolerance, no to hate and fanaticism. Το βραβείο Αυτοκράτηρα Θεοφανό άνοιξε...
The Empress Theophano Prize opened its fair. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you very much, dear President, Mr. Mitsotakis, dear Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, all of you who contributed for this great event, all of you who worked hard for this great event. I hope you are all well, and I hope that we meet once again next year at our Rotunda Monument for the second prize. Thank you very much.